Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to listen to everyone's presentations, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. So, why am I here? My name is Steve, and I'm here with Animal Rebellion to talk to you about what we're up to here in the UK, and a little bit more at the end of our presentation with regards to our upcoming campaign, Stop the Supply of Dairy, where we are going to stop the supply of milk to UK supermarkets across the UK. I'll talk a little bit more about it towards the end of the conversation. It's a real game changer. So some of you have already heard of Animal Rebellion, and if you haven't, you should already be aware of some of the actions that we've completed, such as very recently, the Jubilee action, where we disrupted the Horse Guard parade, forcing the royal family here in the UK to address their land use. In Trafalgar Square, we dyed the fountains red to show the blood that's on our government's hands from subsidising the animal agriculture industries and the pandemics this industry causes. We blockaded the distribution site for McDonald's, forcing restaurants to close. We blockaded Arla, preventing the dairy supply chain from operating. Recently, we did an MBR Beagles action where we liberated 5 beagle puppies from a site in the UK, saving them from torture of animal testing. And this was committed quite spontaneously and with so much love. It engaged the public and animal lovers across the UK and resulted in no charges being raised against our activists. Also, campaigns at the local level with local government councils and schools, encouraging them to turn plant-based. High-profile councils and high-profile schools have committed to a plant-based catering service as a direct result of our campaigns. So who are we? Who are Animal Rebellion? We are a mass movement of people using non-violent direct action tactics, civil disobedience, all tactics of rebellion to bring on rapid, systematic change. The issue? Animal farming and fishing and the massive effect on climate change they have, the mass extinction of species they cause, the irreversible damage being caused by them, and the massive loss of biodiversity across the world. We are a group of volunteers all with one common goal. We want and we believe in a transition from our current broken food system to a new, healthy, sustainable, and just plant-based future. This would be a start to the end of animal farming on land and fishing at sea. Animal Rebellion recognises we can't first end the climate crisis without first addressing the huge elephant in the room that is animal farming and fishing that causes so many issues. A lot of people here in the UK and across the world have tried using other tactics, such as starting petitions, writing to politicians, running for public office to make a change within the system, buying more sustainable products, and going vegan to reduce their personal impacts. And all work from previous non-government organisations and non-disruptive activist groups have brought on meaningful change, but we are fast running out of time. Science shows us we will experience the irreversible effects of climate breakdown worse every year from now on. We have seen that despite many meetings and conferences and agreements and accords, these emissions keep rising and climate change keeps getting worse. Temperatures keep getting hotter. So what's left? What do we do? How do we build upon the successes from other groups and make governments and big businesses and the public listen across the world? We escalate by using the only method we know that works at times like this: mass civil resistance. This is what Martin Luther King said: non-violent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such a tension that a community which has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. It seeks so to dramatize the issue that it can no longer be ignored. This was written by Martin Luther King as he actually sat in jail, Birmingham, USA, for using non-violent direct action tactics he used to address the issues of the time, civil rights in America. So we also use disruption that cannot be ignored to highlight the issues of our times with animal farming and fishing and start a negotiation. How do we know this method of disruption will work? Well, quite simply, it has before. Just as I was just saying, the American civil rights movement. You've also got Mahatma Gandhi in India for independence from Great Britain, and even in Great Britain with the suffragettes, and more recently, the gay liberation movement. It works by causing disruption that cannot be ignored. We create a need for the government and big businesses to listen to our demands and make a lasting change. Unfortunately, these movements didn't have the added pressure and the time limits that our cause does. We don't have the hundreds of years it took for India to gain civil independence. Even the civil rights movement and the suffragette movement took years to achieve. We have 2 to 3 years, according to the latest IPCC report. We need swift and immediate systematic change now. An urgency to take action has never been higher because we are living in the 6th mass extinction now. We are facing climate catastrophe now. What change do we want to achieve with our upcoming campaign? We want the UK government and big businesses to admit the truth. Animal agriculture, and especially our existing food system that relies so heavily upon factory farming, is a world-leading cause of climate change and biodiversity loss. We want the UK government to support our farmers and the fishing communities to move towards stopping animal farming and fishing and start an immediate, just transition to a healthy, plant-based future. We then want the UK government to commit to rewilding this freed up land as part of a wildlife restoration and carbon drawdown programme. This in turn will reduce the worst effects of climate change and the worldwide extinction and biodiversity loss, all caused by animal farming through deforestation, overfishing, and the pollution that the industry creates. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the UN, said, "The jury has reached a verdict and it is damning. This report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is a litany of broken climate promises. It is a file of shame, cataloguing the empty pledges that puts us firmly on track to an unlivable world." And this is the Secretary General of the UN, the top diplomat who is meant to encourage mass cooperation from the governments around the world. The top diplomat is saying this. We are on a pathway to global warming of more than double 1.5 degrees limit that was agreed in the Paris Accord. Some government and business leaders are saying one thing, but doing another. Simply put, they are lying, and the results will be catastrophic. This is a climate emergency. Yet we are still seeing broken promises. In Brazil, we are seeing legislation that's being pushed through their court systems that's allowing the seizure of indigenous lands for oil and gas, along with the mass deforestation for animal farming, only for these same animals to be slaughtered for food which we, as humans, don't need to eat. Now, we all know the Amazon rainforest is so huge, they're often referred to as the lungs of the earth. The Amazon is amazing. It produces its own climate, which is why it is so special and essential for the planet as a major part of removing carbon from the atmosphere. However, due to animal farming, this wonderful, magical place is slowly being destroyed. Currently, we as a species have destroyed 18% of the Amazon, and this can never be returned. But if we continue to destroy the Amazon, it won't be able to support itself, as it would no longer be able to generate its own climate. And that's so essential for the wildlife and the nature within its boundaries to survive. This is one of the main tipping points you will hear other experts mention. Experts that also say if we destroy around 20% of the Amazon, we will start to see this climate fail. The Amazon will die slowly and become a barren land with no biodiversity, no wildlife, no carbon drawdown. And how much of this Amazon do we destroy a year? 1%. Also, we can farm animals for meat, which we don't even need to eat to survive. So we have 2 to 3 years to save the Amazon and in turn the planet. This is one of the reasons why experts are saying we have We are in an emergency, and we have until 2025 to act. This is why a lot of us say we have to act now. But what's going to happen in the future if we continue to do nothing? When we are talking about a rise in average global temperature, this includes an increase over the seas and oceans, and that's 71% of the Earth's surface, and it's covered in water. As land animals, it's mainly the temperature increase on land that we are concerned with, and that temperature increase could be 2 to 3 times higher than the average. A 2 degrees global increase could equate to a 7 degrees increase on land. If we continue on the current prediction, that is a 3-degree increase. According to the IPCC, it could even be more. This would be beyond catastrophic. At 2 degrees alone, and that's predicted within the next 10 to 15 years, just over a century away, thousands of millions of people will not be able to live where they are living, where they have lived for thousands of years. Again, little over a decade away from now. They will have to move, and it's not likely they're going to get up and move politely either. It's going to be a complete nightmare. Parts of the planet are just going to be, simply put, too hot to live in. We are on course to see approximately 1 to 3 billion climate refugees on the move by 2050. We will see more floods, more droughts, more wildfires, more heat waves. Certain areas are just going to become too hot or too wet to live. Soils are going to become too degraded to grow food. And when this hits any of the major food producing regions, we're going to experience worldwide food shortages and mass starvation. We all watch the news, and we see daily there are reports of apocalyptic wildfires in Greece, droughts in places like Turkey, Madagascar, and Iraq, unseasonable hot weather in Asia, in recent months in India, a heat wave that broke all records. This year they had no spring, it went straight to summer. The heat wave occurred really early, and it caused a massive disruption. The temperature was regularly over 45 degrees C. It was too hot to go out during the day, and it remained above 30 degrees at night. We here in the UK complain when it gets to 30 degrees. Now imagine trying to live in that heat, 45 degrees, putting your kids to bed, traveling to work, going to the shops, all the while the heat is unbearable. And unfortunately, this may just be a taste of more to come for India in the future, and not just India as well, other parts in the world. We've seen floods in Europe very recently, heat waves and massive wildfires in Europe just this week. Record temperatures here in the UK in the last couple of days. We're renowned for wet, bleak, miserable summers. But thanks to climate change, it doesn't look that way anymore. This is the aftermath of the recent Philippines typhoon. And these are just a sign of these events becoming even more frequent and more severe. In California, the reservoir at the Hoover Dam was at its lowest ever recorded level. One report over here said that they are less than 80 foot from disaster. If levels dropped below the intake levels, no electricity would be generated and large parts of California would run dry. We had droughts in Kenya, killing much of the natural wildlife over there. We've experienced wildfires in Australia, USA, Mexico, and England. Recently, a glacier broke away from a mountain in Italy, a glacier which had been stable enough to climb on since the Ice Age. And unfortunately for the climbers on the glacier at the time, they didn't make it. The running theme here and the underlying cause is climate change, man-made climate change, as a result of too much carbon, methane, and many other pollutants in our air and sea, the mass deforestation, and the melting of the polar ice caps causing sea levels to rise, just to name a few effects we're having. The main culprits for this are burning fossil fuels and why we are here today, the food system, namely animal agriculture. But let's not forget about the animals during these events. We always see the human impact, but rarely reported is the effect these events are having on all of nature's animals. They are the innocent bystanders of the horror of climate change that we inflict upon them. Who can forget this report from earlier this year of over 2,000 cattle which died on a factory farm in Kansas, a heat wave caused by climate change? We also see animals locked in pens and zoo animals drowned during massive floods. But again, this isn't reported. And animals in nature and on farms are often left to survive wildfires, unable to escape their pens or natural habitats. We cannot overlook these forgotten beings anymore. They need our help. They need a transition to a plant-based future now where we can all survive. On top of this, we already know animals are suffering in the animal farming and fishing industries. 1.2 billion land animals are killed every year in the UK. 3 trillion fish globally. That's 5.1 billion in the UK alone. And these numbers don't include bycatch, the accidental catch of turtles and dolphins and the other beautiful things in the sea. In the dairy industry, this means that babies are taken from their mothers, artificial insemination, all the other horrors we are aware of. And it's horrific, and it keeps getting exposed again and again. The amount of death and suffering is atrocious. Animals feel and they think, they are sentient, and they have a right to freedom from being murdered, exploited, forcibly impregnated and caged. Using land for animal agriculture is a leading cause of biodiversity loss and extinction, as we've already seen, but it's also threatening 86% of species that are at risk of extinction already. We are seeing rapid extinction rates spiraling out of control. We are losing beautiful creatures from our world that are never going to be seen again by destroying their habitats, all for animal farming. As vegans, we already care for the animals and we want to save them from this injustice. But we also have to consider, how can we do this if the worst effects of climate change continue to escalate? If we can't feed our families, if we can't go outside because it's too hot, we can't save these beautiful creatures. So as fellow vegans, please can I ask that you also support your climate change groups, especially groups like Animal Rebellion, who are actively campaigning to save the future for everyone, animals and the planet. Sorry, it's all very depressing and very bleak, and we do have some positives to look forward to. I've given you some great examples, great arguments for plant-based future, but is anyone else listening? Are governments going to change? Is transition beginning to respond, beginning in response to these crises? Yes, there is still hope. Some governments are beginning to take note and they are beginning to take action, such as the Netherlands, who have planned to reduce their herd by a third. Denmark have announced it will invest heavily in plant-based food, and Northern Ireland is considering a big reduction in animal farming. We're also seeing changes at local government levels by incorporating plant-based policies. Here in the UK, Oxford City Council is one such council who's agreed to turn plant-based. A school trust of around 21 schools in the UK has agreed to add more plant-based food to the menu, including plant-based food weeks. But we still need to do more. We still need more support. This is only the start. So let's just take a moment. Are you shocked and as angry as I feel? Are you feeling as hopeless as I can? I do, and there's many people that do. And Animal Rebellion are trying to change that. Just to reiterate, we are a mass movement that uses non-violent civil disobedience to bring about a transition to a sustainable and just plant-based future here in the UK, to prevent the worst effects of climate change, halt the biodiversity loss and extinction of wild animals, and ensure justice for all animals. Our message is that you cannot address the climate emergency without addressing the animal emergency. I'm here today talking to you about Animal Rebellion climate change, and animal agriculture because I needed to do more to fix these issues and reach as many people as possible who want to do the same. And I'm sure some of you do. I have a 6-year-old girl at home. She is amazing, and I want her to have the same environment I had as a child. I want her to see butterflies and bees visiting our garden, wild birds and foxes, rabbits. I don't want her to have to go to the zoo to see a bunny. I don't want her to have to go to an aquarium to see fish swimming in a fake ocean. I also don't want her to have to worry about where her next meal is going to come from in the future, or how to take shelter from a heat wave or avoid a flood. I'm sure a lot of you here today feel the same and have loved ones like me. You don't want the same for them. The same as Animal Rebellion. We want a future. We want a plant-based future. The UN in 2019, for the first time in history, brought together scientists, experts working on climate change and mass extinction crises to identify the crucial solutions. And they determined that the key solution is to restore the forests and ocean ecosystems. Simple but true. Rewilding the land and seas, going back to nature, a transition to a plant-based future. They also identified that the biggest barrier to this is animal farming and fishing, which are the leading drivers of habitat and species extinction and a major cause to climate change. Harvard University published a study in 2019 saying that the UK could become carbon negative here if we have a plant-based food system and rewild the current land that's used for animal agriculture. The key solution to climate change is a sustainable and just transition to a plant-based future. Anything less than a full transition, including business as usual, will still continue to add carbon and all the other greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, would continue to drive mass extinction and the mass torture of the trillions of beautiful animals it does every year. If everyone adopted a plant-based diet, the reduction and sequestration of carbon would increase dramatically. The same rate as 6 years of burning fossil fuels will be taken out of the atmosphere by 2050. One of the world's largest consultancy firms, the Boston Consulting Group, released a report confirming plant-based alternatives are by far the best climate investment. The report shows that investment in a plant-based future leads to greater reduction in climate heating gases, more so than any other green investments. 7 times more reductions than the green cement technology and 11 times more than green cars. The report also showed that beef production results in 30 times more emissions than tofu. Turning to a plant-based future means we all win: people, all animals, and the planet. But where can we get this land from for wildlife restoration and start the carbon drawdown process? Well, when we transition to a plant-based future and rewild the land, we would have access to the 76 or 77% of land that's used across the world for meat, dairy, and fishing, and still feed the world. A plant-based future is the only future where we all win: humans, planets, and all animals. So how are we going to capitalize on this momentum for change? How are we going to obtain our plant-based future here in the UK? At the beginning of September, Animal Rebellion will mobilise 500 people to stop the supply of dairy to UK supermarkets, so that there is no milk on the supermarket shelves for a 1 to 2 week period, day after day after day. We're going to stop the supply of milk to UK supermarkets, restaurant chains, factories, etc. This will create the necessary disruption and the drama to ensure we are a major news story for weeks, as millions of Brits are unable to purchase milk. The British public and the politicians are going to have no choice but to confront the truth. Animal farming and fishing are driving mass extinction, climate catastrophe, and directly causing the death and suffering of billions of land animals and trillions of marine animals. By taking this action with the energy and love that we have for this cause, we will dramatise the issue, getting this issue on the front page of newspapers and the top story on news channels every single day. We will make it such that we can no longer be ignored. The issues can no longer be ignored. And in doing so, we are going to start a mass shift within our society, change the will of the people to pressure the government to take meaningful action. Many of our actions are going to be taking place at distribution centres, and they will involve sitting in roads, climbing on trucks, getting into the compound, mass trespass, shutting down these operations day after day after day. We are also going to be going into the supermarkets and taking milk off of the shelves, as well as non-violently blocking supermarket aisles to prevent the purchase of milk. But why dairy and why now? Well, 80% of the UK is barely concerned about climate change. Meat consumption in the UK has also fallen 20% since 2011. Over 2/3 of Brits now regularly purchase plant milk. The industry needs support, and it needs it now. It needs to transition to a plant-based future for a future. The head of UK Dairy has said they need help. They have called the industry a ticking time bomb with new technologies on the horizon that are going to make the cow obsolete. Precision fermentation is going to have a huge impact in the future. We have already seen that the farmers are getting support in other countries, but here in the UK, they're ignored. A survey from the National Farmers Union in the UK, released recently, advised that 25% of dairy farms in the UK said they're thinking of stopping milk as a result of the industry costs, feed, fuel costs, fertilizer costs as main issues. But if you look at the bigger picture, wider picture, it would show that a lack of support from the government and current market trends are to blame. Farmers are not actually our enemy. They clearly suffer too here in the UK. They are stuck in a system as much as we were, and they are. We want to listen and engage with farming communities because fixing farming helps them too. It gives everyone a future. Animal welfare is also a leading concern for British consumers, but the majority still consume animals and animal products. They put these blinkers on. People care for animals, but they're disconnected from the reality of where their food comes from. We are going to draw people into a more compassionate view and show more love to these poor animals. We are going to bring back the kind in humankind. And we're part of a broader movement. We don't act alone. Animal Rebellion and the Plant-Based Future campaign lies within this vast ecology and network of climate and animal rights groups. We bridge the gap between animal emergency and the climate emergency, showing that social, climate, and animal justice can only be achieved together. We act alongside groups such as Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion, in that we are taking non-violent direct action to achieve the level of change this situation requires. We are all fighting for justice, but from separate angles. We are mutually supporting each other to achieve the same goals and aims. We do not detract from each other's movement, but we are stronger together. We are attacking the system from all sides. So, just to summarize and to finish, we need a transition to a plant-based food system to help alleviate the worst effects of climate change, mass extinction, and biodiversity loss. We need to stop the abuse of animals that needlessly suffer, become healthier and more economically stable. But in order to do so, we need the UK government to tell the truth, help the British farmers and the public of the UK to transition, and then look towards the bigger picture by listening to the science. We need you. We are asking for people to join us this September for actions. Come down and get involved. I'd like to invite all of our international groups and team members and other people to come and join us in solidarity this September to stop the supply of dairy to supermarkets. We need you. Here in the UK, we are going to use non-violent direct action, people to take action, getting arrested multiple times in small teams, staying in safe houses, stopping the supply of dairy, people climbing on trucks, mass trespass, like we said. And if you want to get involved and you're not in the UK, please contact us at global@animalrebellion.org. Get involved. come and show us some solidarity. And I just want to leave you with one more thing. This is a message from Diane Nash, who was a leading civil rights protester. Oppression always requires the cooperation of the oppressed. When the oppressed withdrew their participation from the oppressive system, the system fell. We are building civil resistance. This is the spirit. Thank you ever so much, everyone, for listening to me. Thank you ever so much again for being here. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all in the future. Thank you.